Emanuel Shahaf. He's a former senior official who served with Israeli spy agency Mossad in the Israeli Prime Minister's office between 1989 and 2003. Emanuel, thank you for joining us. The IDF has claimed to have killed Hamas commander Adil Mismah, who took part in the terror group's invasion of Israel on October 7. It comes as Israel announced plans to partially withdraw its forces from Gaza in coming months as the war enters a new phase. How significant do you think this killing of this commander is, and how successful, in your view, has Israel been in achieving its goal of destroying Hamas so far?
Well, nice to be here, Caroline. Thank you for having me. I don't think it's significant at all. In the course of the war, which has been going on for almost 3 months now, this is just another event. And the simple fact that one senior commander has been killed won't make much of a difference. I don't think the government is achieving its aim. Things are moving much too slow. I don't think we will be able to achieve our aims, and this is not going into the right direction for Israel in any case.
If you don't think that the government can really achieve that main goal, I guess, the top goal of destroying Hamas and getting its hostages back as well, what do you think that the government needs to do?
Well, it has to declare victory at one stage and count its losses and try to do the best of the situation by negotiating a reasonable hostage deal. But in order to do that, we have to stop the war, and we have to throw in a few other things. Otherwise, we're not going to get the hostages back. So this is not a good situation for Israel to be in. I don't think we have a chance of achieving all our aims. If we get our hostages back, we're lucky. And so this present government is not the government to do it. So that's another problem.
I will come back to more of your criticism of the government in Israel, but I want to ask you, with your vast intelligence experience, how do you think Israel was blindsided so badly by that attack on October 7? Was it a case, as has been reported, that they were too dismissive of intelligence that Hamas had been planning this attack?
It's usually one of these things where you say it's all of these. It's a combination of a lot of factors. Being dismissive is one, definitely our arrogance looking at Hamas as a minor terror group or not capable of doing what they did and what they even said they would do. That was the main issue, I think. We've done things like that before. In 1973, we were dismissive of Egyptian efforts to attack us, and we suffered greatly at that time. And the same thing happened this time around. And it's basically a strategic victory for the other side. They got what they wanted, and we now are having to pick up after and try to save it by getting to some kind of arrangement which will be reasonable for us and reasonable for the situation in the region. But that's very, very difficult. So we're in deep trouble.
Yeah, it was an extremely high price to pay. Just in terms of the reports about this conflict, we've seen a lot of focus on the death toll coming out of Gaza from the Hamas-run Ministry of Health, which is currently claiming 21,000 deaths, but it doesn't identify how many of those are combatants. 2 Australian academics have today argued forensically why that data is an unreliable indicator. Now, that's perhaps not all that surprising when you consider it's coming from a terrorist organisation that has lied about other things in this conflict, like hospital bombings. But how do you view the information that is being put out about that death toll, and in particular the toll on civilians, with your experience in intelligence?
Judging by historical evidence, meaning the previous engagements with Hamas and the death tolls at that time, the numbers are pretty much accurate. The distribution, how many of them are Hamas and how many are civilians, is estimated to be right now by Israeli experts to be about 30%, so 60 to 70% are civilians. Okay, so those numbers are accurate and are pretty accurate, and and have been in the past. Okay, even though it's Hamas, Hamas-run agency, the death tolls are by and large accurate, with small changes here and there.
Okay, that's interesting you say that, yeah, because some of the figures in this particular report, which you may not have seen, pointed out some of surprising inflations of, for example, child victims. Well, very tragic. Wasn't clear how those figures were being reached. Sometimes they might double in a day, but the Ministry of Health, the Hamas-run Ministry of Health, wasn't explaining how they had suddenly doubled. But it is interesting to hear someone from Israel say that they are accurate.
They're pretty accurate. Historically, in the end, they turned out to be pretty much to what actually happened. It can be in the middle of the fighting. It can be that here and there is some inflation or some discrepancies or some wrong numbers. But when it all adds up at the end of the month, those are the numbers, sadly enough.
Okay, well,
and that's putting a lot of pressure on Israel, of course.
Of course. I mean, they are horrific numbers to be coming out of Gaza. Now, you have been, as I said before, a fairly fierce critic of the current leadership in Israel. You wrote in a piece last month, surprised that so many Palestinians support what happened on October 7? Well, I hope our miserable government has taken notice. If anyone thinks we can continue running the show the way we did, he or she better take notice. What did you mean by that, and what do you think needs to happen in Gaza once this war is over?
Well, first of all, what I meant by that to ignore a terrible situation for years, for at least the last 10 years, and not deal with it, gave us what happened on the 7th of October. So under no circumstances can we continue and go back to a situation we had before the 7th of October. And the government has to look for a resolution to the conflict with the Palestinians, which it is not doing at all at this time. Okay, nobody's talking about the resolution of the conflict. Everybody's talking about fixing Gaza for the time being. Okay, and that will be very, very difficult. It will have to be a combination of an Israeli effort, an international effort, an Arab effort, a UN effort. Everybody has to chip in. But in the end, the responsibility will be ours, because we will be the occupying power, no matter what. If we were before and we are now. And I don't think the Israeli government realizes that. We're stuck with this. We have to resolve it in a reasonable way. It's very difficult right now to see a reasonable way. They're talking about splitting it up for the Hamulot into some kind of provinces in Gaza, which are handed out to different clans, different Bedouin clans who would be running the show. But I can't see that materializing anytime soon. Definitely not as long as the war is going on, and nobody said it'll wind down.